Welcome to This Explainer. You know, every single day we walk, we run, we reach, we grasp, and we rarely stop to think about the absolute symphony of biological engineering happening right beneath our skin. So let's jump right into the incredible biological machinery that makes human locomotion possible.
Right now, wherever you are, I want you to try something simple. Just clench your fist. Go ahead. As you look at your closed hand, think about the invisible, incredibly complex chain reaction of engines and levers that literally just fired off to make that simple action happen. I mean, a thought originated in your brain, traveled down a nerve, and triggered a mechanical marvel. But how exactly did that happen?
Well, here's our roadmap to answer that question. We're going to start small with the actual engines of movement. Zoom in to see inside a muscle fiber and uncover how muscles actually contract. From there, we'll zoom all the way out to the human skeleton, look at the joints where those bones meet, and finally, look at what happens when this whole system breaks down.
All right, starting off with Section 1, the engines of movement. Our muscles are true biological engines. I mean, they make up a massive 40 to 50% of our total body weight. And we essentially have three main types. First, skeletal muscles. These are voluntary, they're attached to our skeleton, and they're the exact ones you just used to clench your fist. And yes, as we all know, they can definitely get fatigued. Then we have the involuntary muscles. This includes visceral or smooth muscles that power our internal organs and cardiac muscles pumping our heart. These involuntary engines run continuously, 24/7, without us ever having to consciously think about them. And crucially, they do not fatigue.
Now, within those voluntary skeletal muscles, we actually have two different types of engine blocks, so to speak, to power different activities. We have red fibers, which are absolutely packed with mitochondria and rely on aerobic metabolism. These guys are built for slow, sustained endurance. On the flip side, we have white fibers. They have fewer mitochondria and rely on anaerobic metabolism, making them perfect for fast, short bursts of power. It's like your body has both a marathon runner's engine and a sprinter's engine built right in. Okay, moving into Section 2, let's get a microscopic view of what's inside a muscle fiber.
The crucial thing to know here is the sarcomere. This is the core structural and functional unit of a muscle. It sits right in the microscopic region between two dense, dark borders known as Z-lines. You can kind of think of the sarcomere as the foundational unit where the actual physical magic of contraction happens.
And inside that tiny sarcomere are our microscopic pistons. We've got two key protein filaments lined up perfectly parallel to each other. First, there's actin. This is the thin filament, and it comes equipped with regulatory proteins called troponin and tropomyosin. Then we have myosin. This is the thick filament, and it acts as the main motor here. It has these little globular heads that project outward, forming what we call cross arms.
Which brings us to Section 3, how muscles actually contract. We have the parts, but how do they actually move?
This relies on what's called the sliding filament theory, the accepted mechanism for muscle contraction, and it plays out in 4 pretty elegant steps. Step 1, a neural impulse from your brain arrives and releases calcium ions right into the muscle cell. Step 2, that calcium basically acts like a key. It binds to the troponin and unmasks the active sites on that thin actin filament. Step 3, using ATP as fuel, those thick myosin heads reach out and bind to the actin, forming a cross bridge. Finally, Step 4, the myosin heads physically pull the actin inward. This sliding action shortens the entire sarcomere. Imagine millions of these sarcomeres shortening all at once. Bam! Your muscle contracts. It is an absolutely stunning display of molecular machinery.
But just like any mechanical engine, it has its limits, right? If you run this system too hard without enough oxygen, like when you're heavily relying on those anaerobic white muscle fibers we talked about, your body has to break down glycogen for energy. This repeated activation leads to the accumulation of a byproduct called lactic acid. And that lactic acid buildup, that is exactly what causes that intense burning sensation of muscle fatigue.
All right, let's zoom out a bit for Section 4, the human skeleton, our macroscopic levers.
206. That's the exact number of bones making up the highly engineered structural framework of an adult human body. Without them, those powerful muscle engines we just discussed would have absolutely nothing to act upon.
Our skeletal framework is primarily built from 2 materials. We have bone, which has a very hard, rigid matrix hardened by calcium salts. This gives us our ultimate structural support. And then we have cartilage, which has a slightly pliable, flexible matrix softened by chondroitin salts. Cartilage acts as the perfect shock absorber and flexible connector all throughout our body.
We can actually neatly divide those 206 bones into two main systems. First, the axial skeleton, making up 80 bones. Think of this as your central core, your skull, your vertebral column, your sternum, and ribs. They are all designed to protect your most vital organs. Second is the appendicular skeleton, encompassing roughly 120 bones in your extremities. This is your arms, your legs, and the shoulder and pelvic girdles that attach them. This appendicular system is what lets you reach out, walk, and really interact with the world around you.
Now for Section 5, joints, where those bones meet to form our biological hinges.
A joint is simply the biological meeting point or point of contact between our bones or between bones and cartilages, and the specific type of joint dictates exactly how much a given area of your body can bend, twist, or rotate. While some joints, like the fibrous sutures in your skull, are completely immovable, others are designed for extreme flexibility.
To see how this builds our range of motion, let's look at synovial joints. These are the freely movable joints of our body. Try moving some of these as we go. We've got the ball and socket joint giving huge rotational freedom in your shoulder and hip. We have the hinge joint swinging open and closed in your knee and elbow. The pivot joint in your neck letting you look left and right. The gliding joints sliding over each other in your wrist. And the saddle joint, which gives your thumb its incredibly unique, opposable dexterity. Honestly, just wiggling your fingers right now means you are feeling the mechanics of these fluid-filled synovial joints in action.
Finally, let's look at Section 6, what happens when the system breaks down.
Remember earlier how we learned that calcium is the crucial key that sparks muscle contraction? Well, if our body fluids suffer from a low level of calcium ions, those microscopic engines start misfiring. This leads to a condition called tetany. It's characterized by rapid, involuntary, wild spasms in the muscle. It really highlights just how delicate our body's chemical balance actually is.
Moving from the muscles to the hinges, we find conditions like arthritis, which broadly causes painful joint inflammation. But a very specific, and let's face it, excruciating version of this is gout. Gout happens when a breakdown in the body's waste processing causes sharp uric acid crystals to accumulate directly inside those synovial joints. It essentially gums up those beautiful mechanical hinges with microscopic shards of glass. Ouch.
And looking at the structural levers themselves, we face osteoporosis. This is an age-related disorder characterized by a dangerous decrease in overall bone mass. It's often linked to decreased estrogen levels as we age, and it literally thins out the dense calcium matrix of our bones. It transforms our strong structural levers into highly fragile structures, drastically increasing the chance of fracturing under just everyday stress.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to really ponder. What invisible, microscopic miracles is your body perfectly orchestrating right now just to keep you sitting upright and experiencing this? I mean, every tiny movement requires a symphony of calcium sparks, sliding protein filaments, and mechanical leverage across your 206 bones. Your physical presence in this world relies entirely on the invisible sliding of microscopic proteins inside your cells. It is absolutely a biomechanical masterpiece. Thanks for joining me, and keep marveling at the incredible machine you live in every single day.